Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, spirituality, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are Sedona's most trusted psychic mediums. We are Rosalind Reynolds, myself, Ivory Lanou, Terry Ann Russell, and Melissa Brace. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is obtaining true peace within. We did a show fairly recently that was about world peace, but today we're focusing on how each individual can find peace within themselves, because just like everything else, big movements begin with the efforts of each individual person. So anybody want to start on that topic today? I'll say something I learned a long time ago working in mental health, something that I use for myself, I use for clients to help them calm down. And it works really well if you find yourself freaking out or completely overwhelmed, even having like a panic attack, anxiety, is to just take a few minutes, sit down, get quiet, and do 10 breaths where you breathe in through your nose, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then let it out through your mouth in a long, slow hiss, like until you expel every bit of air in your lungs. Do it again 10 times. It physically forces the body to calm down. And I've noticed that when I experimented with that years ago, and even when I do it now, I find that it also calms my mind instantly. So it has an effect upon the brain as well. Any other tips you ladies have you want to share?
I don't do the hiss, but I just blow out like I'm in a swimming pool kind of. I imagine myself being, I visualize the light coming in around me. I imagine myself blowing out and releasing any tensions. And when I have clients do this, it is amazing how it works. And we have a nerve that runs all the way through our body called the vagus, VAGUS, not like Las Vegas. And it's it's kind of very central to our nervous system, and it that is a very powerful release for that nerve. So it's not just something that we, are feeling. It's actually a physiological response that our body
Absolutely.
has, and it's very powerful.
It was a psychiatrist who taught that to me. So, he had learned that at medical school, and it absolutely is about the vagus nerve, which does connect to the brain. So
Yeah.
it makes absolute sense. And not that I'm saying anybody out there is psychotic, but I will say it's so effective that even when a patient would become psychotic at the psychiatric hospital where I worked, that technique worked to calm them down. That's how effective it is. So there's other things other than breathing. I don't want to make people feel like it has to be breathing, but that was the first thing that came to my mind this morning thinking about today's show.
Well, we used to have a lot of information out in the 70s and 80s about biofeedback,
Mhm.
and talking, working with your body, working with your whole nervous system, and kind of retraining our body. And I think it's interesting that we hear very little about that now, because of course that's not on big pharma's agenda. But it's a little risky to say, I'm sure. Big pharma doesn't want to hear me saying that, but it's true. Everything now is based on chemicals, pharmaceuticals, etc., in the way medicine is taught and a lot of times practiced. So, I mean, we really moved away from self management. Everything now is, instant gratification. You go, you have a pill, take a pill. I happen to become totally. I mean, I can barely keep my act together if I have to go to a dentist. So I still do a tremendous amount of self-talk before I'm going, trying to work on, my inner reactions to the concept of anyone asking me to open my mouth and them having an intention of touching my teeth. So it really does work though. It really, if you go back to those old, ideas of self-talk, breathing, getting your body to respond to you disciplining it, really creating a self-discipline. Um, it's pretty amazing. So I think it would be a really good practice for us all to develop, to when we wake up every morning, talk to our bodies and say, it's going to be a great day. You're going to feel great, et cetera, et cetera. Everything's going to work out the way it needs to. That's kind of a self-programming statement, but it is effective. So I think when it comes to, self-management, you really got to work with the thing that works for you and find what works for you. I mean, I figured out a long time ago that medicine doesn't work right for me. So that doesn't leave me much option but to try to manage it myself.
Right. And we're not taught that, right? We are taught that take a pill, it'll be all better tomorrow. We're not taught to go into your body and feel. I know at least I wasn't taught to do that kind of stuff. It was like, oh, you feel like that? Shove it down there. Don't feel it. So
Yeah.
not until I became in my awareness did I understand that there was this connection between my body, my mind, and my soul. And like you were saying, that breathing in, talking to yourself, those are all really great things. And I think it's wonderful, Ivory, that you learned that early on in your career, how to do that. I know that would have been very helpful when I had young children, to teach them to breathe.
Absolutely. And that's a good point, because a lot of children are having anxiety with what's happening in our society right now. And there's techniques, these techniques we're talking about are not just for adults, but children, as long as they're old enough to grasp the concept and teach it to them, which probably would be age 4, then they're going to benefit from this as well. And you could do it together. But Roz, I'm so glad that you brought up like those positive statements, like telling yourself. We talk about it so much, how we manifest things by what we think about, what we talk about. And that certainly can start with manifesting what your day is going to be like. If you want your day to be stress-free, you want your day to be chaos-free, I think that's great. And I do that too. Like I wake up before I even get out of bed. I'm like, this is going to be a wonderful day. I'm going to get some exercise. I'm going to feel so energetic and happy. And I'm just going to be able to rise even higher with my frequency. And it works.
It does.
Our bodies, our minds believe what we tell it.
Absolutely, it does. I have read this 2 or 3 times, but the comment to the effect of that, basically our subconscious is like a 3-year-old. So talk to it lovingly, patiently, and tell it what you want it to know.
And probably a lot of our emotions come from that 3-year-old subconscious too, of old memories, old patterns. So I
Yeah.
think we can talk our 3-year-old subconscious self down too, is something like one thing I like to do is if I start feeling upset about something, I name my emotion. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling threatened. I'm feeling lonely. And then I talk myself down. I'm like, those are just emotions. They're just emotions. That really helps me. I don't know why, but even the first time I read that, when somebody said they're just emotions, they're ephemeral things that come and go, and they don't have to rule us. And so it helps me release those kind of emotions so that I can go back to feeling what I normally feel, which is a state of serenity overall. I stay pretty calm the majority of the time. And so that's just a little trick I have.
I think that's a good point, because a lot of people get into that space where they just like attack somebody and then they're in that space already. It's really hard for them to step back and say, okay, what is this about? But I think if you can do it like a daily practice that we all talk about doing, when you get into a situation like that, it's a lot easier then for you to step back rather than just reacting to that other person.
Absolutely. We do not have to be ruled by our emotions. We don't have to be carried away on them like a tidal wave, getting bigger and bigger. We have control over ourselves. And we remember from earlier shows, and I'm sure people have read this and heard about it elsewhere, you only have control over yourself. So learning how to have better control over ourselves, that's a worthwhile effort, our time and our energy, rather than wasting it on trying to change other people, which we cannot do. So I think a lot of what people get, what they get very stressed about and pulls them off balance is worrying about what other people are doing or not doing.
And
And
what
I
other
think that's a
people are
big piece.
thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I reminded somebody the other day of a quote that just, it kind of, when I first read it, I thought, what? And the more I thought about it, I thought it's true, but it's like, what you think of me is none of my business. And I think that's true because people have a right to their thoughts, their opinions, and we don't have a right to know every thought or opinion somebody has. If they don't share it with us openly, and frankly, that's freedom. That can give you peace too, because when you let go of all of that, you can't please everybody. It's not a popularity contest. The main thing is making sure you feel happy with what you're doing, who you are, how you're using your time and energies, and what other people think, that's on them. So letting all that go, there's peace in that. And I think that for me is almost a daily effort that I must make to let go of what other people might say or think or feel about what I'm doing. But I feel like it gets easier all the time, where I just get onto the like, let it roll off my back kind of thing. Like, Roz is good at that. Roz is really good at that.
Well, we can't, we can't let someone else and their ideas and their opinion really take control and shape our life. We have a purpose. We come here. We know what that is. And tapping back into that and staying on I'm always telling myself, okay, get back on task. Hello, because I can go off into the cosmos. So it's always good for me to remind myself, I can't make all the people happy all the time. I have to speak the truth that I'm shown and that I'm told, and that I hear from my guidance. And, if people are not comfortable with that because they have other perceptions, other opinions, that can't really control my life. And I think we all have to remind ourselves that people right now, I feel like we are bombarded with opinions all day, all the time. On the news, it used to be that the news was the news. Now, everybody's got an opinion. We have all of our, we tend to seek out in our social media and everything. And this is how they track us and how they keep track of what we're doing and what we're following. Every perception possible is out there. So whatever you're researching and you're pulling up on your computer is, aligned with someone's opinion. And I try to look for the facts, but the reality is I think the facts are very hard to find now. You have to have a lot of time to research because most people are just talking about what they think or a specific fact that they like. So it's become a lot more complicated to
Well,
to
I think people have
function.
always had their opinions, but the problem is not problem. I guess the fact is there's so many platforms now, and that really can take your peace from you, your calmness away from you if you let it. When I said Roz is really good at this, she cracks me up because sometimes I'll say, "Hey, you got a great review on Yelp," and she'll be like, "I never read those things," and I
And I
think that's
don't,
probably just as well because let's face it. If you put yourself out, not that we have bad reviews out there, but if you put yourself out there on a public way, on a platform, and we're on multiple platforms, you're not going to please everybody. And I'm sure, that's true of any of you. You put yourself out on Facebook, let's say, and there's people out there who will say mean things just to be mean. I think they do it sometimes just to relieve themselves of some negative emotions they're having at the time, to make themselves feel better by tearing other people down. There's a lot of that going on. The trolls who just enjoy stirring up chaos. You can choose to be a part of that and engage with that sort of thing, which is definitely going to rob you of your peace. You're going to get all riled up. You're going to take it personally. And you're going to start doubting yourself in some ways. So all of those things are ways that you give away your peace to another person. So not to say you shouldn't read your business reviews, but I'm saying don't live and die by them. Don't put too much emphasis upon what people say that are negative about things that you're doing with a good heart, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life. That's a way you can help hold your peace within you and keep your balance, which helps with peace.
I think also, this goes back to your intuitive side, your sixth sense, which we all have. You have to feel, feel it in your heart, feel it in your solar plexus, feel what is really going on. Because a lot of people can be talking about what's going on. But we have the ability to look at these situations and to really tune in, and I mean we collectively, not just we four of us. We as humans, we have the ability to tune in and to really get a positive perception or a negative perception of what's happening. And it's really important to use that tool. I mean, that's a tool, that's a gift that we have. And so trying to stay tuned in to every social media thing, and they have the influencers now, quote unquote, on social media. And it's pretty funny because I recently got a text from out of the blue, and it said, if you have so many followers on whatever platform it was, there were two platforms, I don't remember. And it's not relevant because I'm not interested, but if you have so many followers on these platforms, we would love to have you become our influencer, and we will pay you for that, compensate you. And I'm thinking, you know, I'm thinking that's pretty weird. That's pretty, strange to think that. But there's hundreds and hundreds of these people getting paid on a daily basis, making their living from talking about whatever they're paid to talk about. So that in itself, is a little bit of a wake up call about us, embracing someone's opinion.
Where the truth is, we are influencers. We're influencers. Sedona Soul Sisters are influencers, but we're not paid influencers. We're influencers trying to influence people to follow the path of light, to find their truest self, to be the best they can be. You influence people by what you talk about, what you present. So yes, so as far as like how to keep your peace, I think how to find it and keep it is to walk a path that resonates with you as a path of integrity. When you stay within your sense of integrity and honor, it's easier to feel peace within yourself because things like regret and guilt and shame, those are emotions that'll really pull you off kilter in a hurry.
Yeah. And those are the emotions that have, at some point hit us all. And those layers of like Ross was saying, like the things it might be true to somebody, but are all the opinions true to you? And then it becomes layered and layered and layered until you can't remember what the truth is or what the point was or what were we talking about in the first place. It becomes a large heaviness. And some of the ways that I personally look in myself to help clear away some of those heavy pieces or the layers to find the truth and just the peace in myself are one of the reasons I became a hypnotherapist. Now, Terry Ann and I both are hypnotherapists and really, really enjoy, that. I mean, it's a blast, and it's helping us, helping everyone that we get to work with. But that also goes into that sort of inner core, and you go, hey, and then you can recognize the truth, and also like you guys were saying earlier, like wake up and each day check yourself where you're coming from in your subconscious and go back to that place. Like I think I'm going to choose to not hold on to that emotion. Like Ivory was saying, like, I don't want that fear one. I don't want that anger one. And then choose the ones that we do want. Like I'm happy. I feel vibrant today and fulfilled. And that keeps us moving forward in our subconscious. And then it goes right into our daily lives.
Absolutely.
And, all of this goes to our topic, of course, finding true peace within, finding your path that you feel guided to be on, and how you respond to all these things going on culturally, the sociological impact of everything, the picture is expansive. I mean, finding true peace within, yeah, you look at all these things, but the reality is you have to get down to the core of you and what you feel and what you know. I had a client say to me recently, well, you're mainly clairvoyant, right? And I said, well, I am clairvoyant, but that's just a part of it. That's a part of a bigger picture of different aspects of how my gifts work. And I just try to be open to whatever people need, just tuning in, like, am I the person who can provide this? If I am, send me this information, talking to their guidance and talking to mine. So I think finding your true path to that peace within has to be about getting to know the true you. And you mentioned the word integrity earlier. I mean, integrity is a huge factor involved. You have to know that the things that you're receiving and guided to do and to work with, and the whole situation of how our lives go, and our careers and our personal lives and everything, it has to come first from that source of your peace within. So gotta tap in.
You really do. And I was thinking about another exercise that I have used in the past, both for myself and for clients. I do a lot of work with people who've had trauma, and people who have come out of very difficult relationships, like toxic relationships with narcissists and sociopaths. So part of that is all the emotions. They feel kind of trapped in the emotions. They can't find their peace because they're trapped within guilt for getting into the situation, for staying in the situation. they feel like they could have handled things differently. I should have left earlier. Or the trauma of what they went through is just like wrapped around them, like literally holding them hostage, and they cannot get to the place they want to be mentally and emotionally. So I came up with a little exercise that seems to help a lot. And it's a visualization where they're like unzipping a zipper from the front of their head down their back and stepping out of this skin of shame and regret and self-blame and all of the things that are trapping them, fear, terror, all the emotions they felt in their trauma, and just stepping out of it and shedding it like a skin that you shed and you leave it behind. You don't need that anymore. And it seems to be a very visceral visualization for people, that they can feel a relief from that, like they don't have to carry that around anymore. And however you can do that will help you find peace, because the whole thing of the movement that Eckhart Tolle came out with, the power of now, is because we waste so much time and energy living in the past or worrying about the future. And that's another thing that will affect your ability to find peace and hang on to your peace. So letting go of all of that, letting go, you can't change what you did in the past. You did what you did. And I like to tell myself, because I certainly have moments of my life I wish I'd done differently. And I talk myself down to find peace again by saying, I did the best I could considering the age I was and the knowledge base I had and the experience I had under my belt at the time. I did the best I could. You can't judge yourself from where you are now based on where you were 20, 30 years ago and say you did the wrong thing. Same thing with your parents. If you're hanging on to anger about parents, a lot of things in your childhood, they were doing the best they could based on the circumstances and their knowledge base and their skills at the time. And maybe that'll help you let go of some of that too, because all of those things are like blocks, barriers getting in the way of you having peace within yourself.
And so it's about viewing it from that higher perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yep. And that's what I teach a lot of my clients. It is about, getting to the core of it. What is it truly about? And then viewing it from that higher perspective. And a lot of times people, not all people, but some want to hold on to that. It's like part of them almost. They don't know how to let go of it. And then once they actually, it's amazing what I've experienced once they've actually let go of it and they can, like you said, step out and step into another skin. It's almost like they're being reborn. They start to feel this different feeling in their body that they haven't been used to. And it's just a beautiful experience to watch.
I think that the people who hang on to those things, they think that if they let go of it, it means that they're saying it wasn't important, that what happened didn't really happen. But that's not what it is. It's just hanging on to something that's hurting you and not changing the situation. So there's really nothing to be gained by hanging on to these painful experiences or memories or feelings.
You have to make peace with it to get peace within.
Mm-hmm. Don't you think that's why forgiveness work is so important when it comes to feeling peace within yourself?
Yeah.
I've done a ton of it.
I mean, forgiving yourself.
That's the number one.
That's basically what you're talking about is, understanding that other people's experience, to a large degree dictates their behavior. Well, our experiences is the same thing, and looking at it and being able to forgive yourself over events that have happened. Maybe they were events that you had complete control over, but at the time were not seeing things clearly or not functioning clearly, or reacting or responding to outside situations. So all of these things are things that you examine, and then you really have to come to a point where you realize exactly what you said. I did the best I could at the time, and so did my mother, and so did whoever. So
Otherwise, it's like you take a baseball bat out of the closet, and every time you start to feel bad about yourself, you beat yourself up with it. I mean,
yeah,
what sense, whether you're doing it physically or mentally, it hurts you. So I say, not only leave the baseball bat in the closet, but maybe get rid of the baseball bat, because beating yourself up, there's plenty of, I always tell my daughter, there's plenty of people out there who are going to say bad things about you or try to hurt you. Don't do it to yourself. That's something you need to begin. When I say forgiveness work, almost always it begins with forgiving yourself. To find peace within yourself, you must forgive yourself for the mistakes you made, the choices you should have made and didn't, or feel you should have and didn't. All of those things, and then working on the forgiveness with other people. And again, for those who don't know that, forgiveness is not saying what you did was okay. It's just releasing you from the energetic attachment of the negative emotions to hanging on to whatever happened. So you're releasing yourself from the negativity and all these things. I mean, every single thing we're talking about is a piece in the puzzle that leads to you feeling more peace. There isn't one thing, darn it.
that's true.
A lot of people do meditation too, and helps them. A lot of my clients say, and I do meditation every day, so I have to agree with that. Like, I think for balance and peace within, doing meditation is very powerful. Some of my clients really like to do the transcendental meditation. Some people like to do the chanting. Some people prefer to go to group. I've tried just about every kind of meditation there is, but typically I just do mine solo at home. But I think that there's a lot of calming energy within that as well. I can almost feel a person's energy and tell you whether they do meditation regularly or not.
That's very true. When you tune into their frequency, if they're, or even in the past, if they've done any type of meditation, you can definitely feel that frequency, because it really is about self-management, self-discipline, and self-awareness. Awareness of your thought processes and the flow of those. I'm a great proponent of prayer and affirmation.
Mhm.
I've never been very successful at meditation, but I do a lot of prayer and affirmation work, and I feel like that is something that for me is a necessity on a daily basis. So I think we have to know, what works for us. Again, what's our specialized need, if you want to call it that, to bring us balance. I do a lot of distance work with people's energy, and it's very funny because I won't say anything. I'll be doing some other type of work that they signed up for, but at the end of their session, they'll say, "Were you doing energy work on me? I feel completely different." Well, I guess that just comes with the territory, because we're metaphysical healers, and I think our energy responds to what people need. So sometimes I'm not even thinking about that I'm sending them as energy, of shift to a brighter, higher frequency, a brighter outlook of it, whatever. I'm not thinking that I'm doing that. But I think that we as, psychics, intuitives, multidimensional healers, metaphysicians, that comes with the territory.
Yeah, it
And
sort of happens organically, right?
pretty much, I mean, I feel like it does. I feel
Yeah.
like when I am connecting with people, whether they're in person or, via Zoom, we do so much Zoom now. work due to the pandemic and everything. And I feel the same, the same loving, like, let me help you energy flow, whether I'm with them in person or on the phone or whatever. And they pretty consistently feel it, whether I'm even thinking about I'm doing it. So I just think that's what our soul does.
And so that's something else to think about for those of you watching the show right now or listening later on podcast platforms, is that sometimes the best thing is not to take a pill, not to, nothing that's like Western medicine, but it's more of an alternative type of healing. I do a lot of healing via email, and I'm sending them what I got via email, but I'm doing a distance healing on people that is involving angelic resonance. And a lot of that, they'll always say, I feel so peaceful. I just felt peaceful, because they'll say, were you working on me around 6 p.m. yesterday? And I'm like, yes, I was. And that wasn't really one of the issues they asked me to work on, but it seems to be a byproduct of it. So getting any kind of energy healing, I think, just naturally does that for you. Like Roz says, what you need, the energy finds and works on it, even if you haven't identified it or didn't even realize you needed it. That's often true, as people haven't identified that they have lost a sense of peace. Maybe they never had it in there as long as they can remember. I find people that way who don't even know what it means to feel peace. So some healing is a good idea, a good place to start.
It's such an since we're all, in this situation of separation by quarantine, separation by closure, whatever's happening, I think this is one of the most important times to do multidimensional and distance healing for people, because they don't have the capacity. I mean, normally we are here, we're here in our offices, and we do have people who come in from all over the world. That's not happening right now. And it's not happening because it's being prevented. I feel like this is the most important time of all for us to be doing the work of sending love, kindness, and healing and wellness to people. And, when you read about in various parts of the world, the medicine men, the shaman, the practitioners who, and I'm thinking, of course, of a lot of the practitioners who never even talk to the people who need the work, the people who need the help, but they are just guided by their soul, and they're doing that work 24/7, because it's a religion, really. Their practice of their spirituality has an amazing capacity to do good works. So, I mean, when you're looking for inner peace, just helping others, if that's your purpose, what you've been called here for. I know that's why I came here. I know there are a lot of people who ask, what's my purpose? Why am I here?
Yeah.
It comes. The more love work you do, the more healing work you do, the more it flourishes. And that inner peace is a part of that. And I'm not speaking like, oh, this is so amazing. I have certainly had those times in my life too, of extreme difficulty. And when I was resistant to doing this work, because I wanted to be a regular person with a regular life.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, doesn't really work that way for some of us. Didn't certainly work that way for me.
Me either. And I tried and tried and tried to fight it.
I know. And the thing about it is our whole existence basically is directed by, oh, you need this education, you need this kind of job, you need to have money, you need this kind of house, if you throw all that out, if you just empty that bag and dump it, your soul will tell you what your inner peace is and what you need to be doing. And the four of us, I mean, we've all had that experience where we hit rock bottom and we're like, okay,
Hmm.
guide me. I don't know, I'm always going, okay, show me what to do.
Once you're at that rock bottom, then that's when you have to work even harder to find your peace again, find your center. For me, when Roz was saying you have to find what works for you, I think that's so true. But for me, because the core of my work is about angels, that's just such a big part of my life. Like talking to my angels and getting guidance from them is what gives me the greatest sense of peace. Because I know, I feel it, I see it, I hear it, I know that I have the guidance of these celestial beings who know what's going to come in the future. They know what's in store for me. They can reassure me that I'm right where I'm supposed to be right now. All of, and that is available to any person who wants to learn how to tap into that. So that kind of reassurance and knowledge that you're never alone, that I have that kind of guidance available to me anytime I ask for it. Sometimes, often when I don't ask for it.
Yeah, I started to say, sometimes we're not asking.
They're like, why aren't you writing a book? I hear that one a lot. I am writing my book, but apparently they'd like me to make that a full-time job. But
I think they forget or they don't understand, like, we're still human in this human world. I'm always like, don't I have enough on my plate? Like, you want me to do are you crazy?
Yes, and yet you wouldn't give up that guidance for anything, right? Like, I mean, once you have that connection, like that itself is a source of great peace. You're not alone. You don't have to figure this all out by yourself. You're not out there in the wilderness wandering around aimlessly. There's a lot of guidance. And for me, I have to say that is incredibly powerful in keeping me feeling very serene about things. I care much more what my angels say than I do what any human would ever say to me. And rightfully so.
And I mean, and that speaks volumes too. Because if you're in the right place within and you are connected, with your purpose, with your guidance, that's your pathfinder. That's your guide through the world. I mean, you really don't question. The interesting thing I think right now for a lot of people is, again, going back to the bombardment of the media. If you give too much credence to that and allow it to control your life, I don't watch television, haven't for years, but I do go on YouTube. I mean, we can't live in a void, so I see what's going on in the world, and I feel the desire to use energy to shift, to contribute to the collective consciousness, et cetera, et cetera. And I really feel like you kind of have to find that balance between what you're hearing on that platform of electronic information and what you know. And again, that goes back to, finding your inner peace, finding your guiding light.
Because there's people out there who want to just try to tear you down so you don't help people. They're trying to mess with your energy so you cannot be a source of light, so you cannot make a positive change in other people's lives or in the world. That's the flat out truth. And if you let that get to you and destroy your peace, pull you off balance. What a travesty. Then they're accomplishing exactly what they're seeking out to do.
So that's a very good point.
There
You
are
have
people
to-
out there making comments that are valid and kind and loving. Don't mistake that.
Well, I find that a lot of the people that I talk to, that they are asking, why am I here? What is my purpose? That's a really big thing right now. People awareness, the awakening is going on. People are looking at that. And then I also find a tremendous number of people who come to me and say, I think I'm going crazy, because suddenly I realize that all this is going on, and it's like a veil has been taken back. And that's really true. The veils are thinning, the veils are being removed, and we are seeing so much more. And the people that I am thinking of, all of them went through a pretty significant period of, human emotion, of fear, just not knowing, confusion. The confusion aspect can really mess up your your thinking process when you get into that confusion of I'm going nuts. I'm all of a sudden I'm seeing all these things. I never saw these things before. It doesn't make them bad. It just means that a veil has been lifted for you and your frequency is elevated.
My
And-
daughter Michelle brought up something the other day. She was talking about when we lived in this particular house in Prescott, and she was like between age about 5 and 7.5 when we lived there. And she said she walked into the bedroom one night and she wanted to talk to me, wake me up, and there was a light over the bed. And she didn't know what it was, so she turned around and went back to bed. And we were talking about, because that's when I had my massive spiritual awakening, and I was seeing astral beings every night. And she would say things to me like, the little men came to visit me. They floated me out the window, with this innocent little voice, and I'm freaking out. So the point was, I was really afraid of these astral beings because I had no idea what it was. And I really thought I was going crazy. I lost my peace entirely during that. And it was all internal, because knowing what I know now, like those beings had no desire to hurt me. They were communicating with me. They were curious about me. And they never did hurt me or anyone in the house. They were just there and appearing to me, and that's all, And so now when I see things like that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to write that in my journal in the morning, and I go to sleep. It's just a perspective you get as you understand things. So if you're in that place right now and you're thinking, you're having things happen you cannot explain, it's human nature to try to make things you don't understand to have fear about it, but you rarely need to have fear about it. So hopefully that'll help you too. Reach out and talk to us and let us know what's going on for you. Maybe we can ease your fears about that. Likely we can.
We've all been there.
Oh my gosh. Yes. More than once, right?
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts you ladies have on this topic today?
I think we covered it pretty well.
I think so as well. It's been good. It's such an important thing right now. When Roz and Terry Ann are talking about what people are coming and talking to us about, I don't think that they're saying to me, I don't feel my peace, but I can feel that they're not feeling peace. I can tap into that as an empath and feel that they're chaotic, they're afraid, they're anxious, all of those emotions. So hopefully there's at least one technique in the show today that will work for you, or it'll get your mind working on a technique, a method that you can use to find your own peace, and that you'll understand that you are the driver in the seat of your peace. You can bring it to yourself and you can hang on to it as the valuable emotion that is. You've been watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show. If you'd like more information about us or our services, visit our website at sedonasoulsisters.com. Our show is now on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and many other podcast platforms. Please subscribe so you don't miss a show. You can watch it or actually listen to it anytime you want to. Tune in next week when the topic will be animal communications. We're going to talk to you about how that occurs within our readings, things we've experienced, and emotions and messages that animals give. So it's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.